Please be aware, in this podcast series we talk about all areas of safeguarding, which some people may find upsetting. So please make sure you're okay listening to today's topic. Be mindful of those around you, such as children, that you might not want to listen in. Hi, I'm SSS Safeguarding Director Sam Preston.
And I'm former head teacher and content author Sarah Spinks.
Welcome back to Safeguarding Conversations. Today, Sarah and I are exploring a really important and sensitive issue, the use of reasonable force and other restrictive interventions in schools. So a lot has changed recently. The Department for Education has now published revised guidance that will replace the 2013 use of reasonable force guidance, and that will be implemented from the 1st of April 2026.
That's right. Until then, schools are still working under the old 2013 guidance. But from April, there will be new statutory guidance titled Restrictive Interventions, including the use of reasonable force in schools.
So a key update is that schools will be expected under the statutory guidance to record and report every significant incident involving the use of force or seclusion. So this moves recording and reporting from recommended practice to a clear expectation that schools are required to have regard to it.
Precisely. And on definitions, the revised guidance keeps the core idea that reasonable force is a physical contact used only when necessary and proportionate, the minimum amount for the shortest possible time, that means. But now this sort of comes with a clear statutory expectations around documentation and transparency. So the guidance also highlights that restrictive interventions are disproportionately experienced by pupils with SEND, meaning schools should pay careful attention to equality duties and individual risk planning.
And the new guidance also sets a clearer definition of seclusion, where a pupil's kept apart from others and prevented from leaving, and states it should only ever be used to manage immediate safety risk and never as a disciplinary sanction.
And that's a really big step forward. So in the past, terms like internal exclusion were used inconsistently. Now schools are expected to record seclusion incidents and inform parents promptly, just like they will for physical interventions. So this is meant to increase transparency and reduce misuse.
Yeah, absolutely. In my opinion, it's a really, really good move. But concerns remain, especially from organisations like the Challenging Behaviour Foundation. They've welcomed the new duties on recording and reporting, but still argue that the guidance doesn't go far enough in protecting children's rights or ending practices like seclusion altogether.
That's right. Groups are pushing for national training standards, saying adequately trained is still too vague without detailed quality assurance. So, while schools are expected to record incidents, there is no statutory standard yet for what good training looks like.
So let's summarise what's new in the revised guidance. From the 1st of April 2026, as we've said, this guidance replaces the 2013 reasonable force guidance. Schools are expected under statutory guidance to record every significant use of force or seclusion and inform parents as soon as reasonably practicable, normally on the same day, wherever possible. Seclusion is clearly defined and must only be used in response to risk and not as punishment. The guidance emphasises prevention and de-escalation, encouraging behaviour support plans, risk assessment, and reflection on data to reduce restrictive practices. And staff training still lacks a mandated national standard, which many training bodies and campaigners see as a gap.
So, with that in mind, here's what schools should be doing now during this transition. Firstly, update policies now to reflect both current and forthcoming requirements. I think it's really important to prepare systems to meet the strengthened recording and reporting expectations within statutory guidance from April 2026. Invest in strong de-escalation and rights-based training. Going beyond the minimum wording of the guidance would be my advice. Communicate transparently with parents about how and why restrictive interventions are used, and use data proactively to identify patterns, minimize restrictive practices, and improve pupil well-being.
So safeguarding, we know it isn't about reacting. We've talked about this a lot, haven't we, Sarah?
Yeah.
It's about creating safe, positive learning environments. And as this guidance comes into force, schools have a chance to shift that culture as well as practice.
Absolutely. Now, whether the new framework drives real change will depend on how schools implement it and how leaders, staff, parents, and pupils work together, really, to prioritise dignity, safety, and trust.
Thanks, Sarah. And thanks to you for joining us on Safeguarding Conversations. Until next time, keep listening and thanks for joining us.